right, welcome to Deeper into Movies. Here's your 1 minute of excellence. What you should be watching next. Let's hit it.
All right. So lately, I haven't seen a lot of stuff because of Georgie, my daughter, but I think um, Blink Twice I saw recently. I think there's been like a lot of really
Okay.
cool horror, like more feminist horror, or at least commentary on
Mm-hmm.
woman's place in the world. And I think Blink Twice is like kind of like a post. Um, Meet.
Oh, with Chet Tainting.
Yeah. He was great.
Nice.
Written and directed by Zoe Kravitz, though. It also
Okay.
stars, but just like without commentary. Woman I hadn't actually heard of before. She was great, though. Female driven thriller, not scary, even though they kind of advertise it scary. It's worth a
Uh-huh.
watch. It was a slow burn. I didn't like the first act. Second and third
Okay.
act were like much more engaging. I started to like the writing more, and I like the end. It's worth a watch for sure. It
I
also,
love it.
strangely enough, I have stayed. I worked on a music video once. We're at the same place that she filmed it in Quintana Roo, up by like it's inland, like from Merida, in
Mm-hmm.
an interesting hacienda that I actually stayed in. So it was kind of fun to watch a movie where I had worked and stayed in and then returned to as a tourist to stay in Mexico. So it was great. Yeah. That was fun. Other thing that I really like that I saw a while ago, it actually was a plane watch, but it deserves a big screen, is this guy Christopher Borgli, I think you say his name is. He's Norwegian. He's kind of like turned me on to Norwegian humor. I'd seen it a little bit in TV. Anyway, Sick of Myself is like absurd, really dark. Um, I think the darker you are, the funnier you find. My partner definitely was laughing even more than I was, like a little laughy and shocked.
Wait, I
My
think I've seen it. I think I've seen this bumping around here. I was like,
Sick of Myself
that's
is great. It's really like it has a great social commentary. This guy, I think, it's actually like the new Yargos Lanthimos, if you could say that. He's really creative. I think he does some of the writing, but he is a great cinematographer who actually shot Pieces of a Woman, which we can
okay.
talk about. So
Yeah.
it's just really good. I think it's creative, it's fun, and it's like kind of out of the box premise, which I like. Um, and then Billionaire Island is also Norwegian, and
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's Norwegian. Yeah, and it's like people are calling it like Succession with
Okay.
um meets like salmon fishermen.
Okay. I'm with
And
you. I'm with you.
but it's a little drier. They have a different way of dealing with like more. They're more matter of fact. It's not. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have quite the darkness or of Succession of the
Yeah.
characters, but it's really
Yeah.
good. It's worth a watch. I enjoyed it a lot.
So some great suggestions. That is fantastic. For myself, have you seen The Bear, the Hulu show The Bear? They just won a bunch of Emmys.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Did
like
you
one
see
of
it?
the best shows.
Did you see all 3 seasons?
I've se- I think was it two? I thought they were on their second season, right?
They just finished their third season. Yeah, it's not a real spoiler alert.
No, was that the? I'm up to date. Was that the third season?
First season was family business. Second season is was making the bear, and then third season was launching the bear.
You're right. I've seen it. I'm up to date.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Dude, if you haven't seen it, it's crazy. What is so nice about it right now is that there's a bunch of people watching it live. Remember when we were kids and you would tune into something, you weren't watching it alone in a cave, in your own Plato's cave. You were watching it with a group of, tens of thousands of people sometimes, and they were all watching the same pattern at the same time, and it had a certain feel to it. The only time I get this is if I figure out some live event that I can watch online, and then you sort of get that sense. But that feeling state where you can kind of slip into the group think, it's changing with the way that new media is being broadcast.
Yeah, I think are they once a week FX? Or is
Um,
it all dropped at the same time? It was
yeah,
all at the same time.
Cheryl, my wife, we call it drip TV, and we avoid drip. We wait if something's dripping, we're like, oh, you animals, and we let it get to the end. We discipline ourselves and we watch it as all at once. It's sometimes very hard.
I think there's something nice though to your point of like going to the water cooler
Yep.
It doesn't exist anymore. But when people watch things week to week, it was such an event. Everybody knew it was on Wednesday
Yes.
night. And I
That's
think
right.
that was, the ritual of that is gone in a way. And I also think
Yes.
you blow through things really fast when you like something should be watched in like in a binge session. I think it works. It's like an extended movie. But
You
there's
have to go for the you got to go for the ad free. There's no way you can break up the flow. It's kind of designed for that, for ads in there, but it's very smooth. Some of the episodes are like an hour long, some are like 20 minutes. What I love about it, what I love that it captures is that big families are loud, and they really do that well with the sound and with the just everybody talking over each other. I mean, there's very few movies that I'm just like, oh god, I'm watching a heart attack in progress, and that does those seasons do that over and over and over again. John season
capture anxiety really well.
really well, and just the way that the dysfunction in a family can impress the other parts of your life. I think it's the best story to ever capture that, and that I've ever seen. And
Yeah, and characters have also become much like I did not like favorably the line cook, the woman, but I started to
yes,
like her last season, and then this season you finally
yeah,
get to see some of her life. She also like won the Emmy, right? For
she did.
she was one of the I think the first Latina to win, so like she was definitely proud. I
So
strangely
cool.
watched the Emmys. I haven't seen the Emmys in years. I don't even watch
Oh,
award shows anymore. But then I was with Matt's parents, so I
yes,
I ended up watching him, and that was one of the ones we saw. So it was fun. A lot of
yeah,
the pomp and circumstance to your point earlier of having that be this like thing that everybody does at once. It only really exists for
yes.
live sports. The Olympics was fun for that, but I don't really watch any other sports live, so I do miss it.
I'm totally with you. I'm gonna get my there's a scene in season 3 where John Bernthal has the fork scene. That might be the most tense scene I've ever seen in a movie that didn't involve an external force. Like, oh no, it's a volcano exploding! Quick! It was literally so much energy that was just an unspoken between two people. It was so crazy. It was like a nuclear reactor
Okay,
of
I want to
like
see it.
intensity. Yeah, yeah. Okay, and so my other recommendation is Flora and Son, which is on Apple TV. It is very sweet. It is Irish. It is her the not to try not to spoiler alert it too much, but her and her son are find sort of each other through music in the same way that like Once, if you've ever seen that good movie, it's got this Irish undercurrent of like discovering the spontaneity of live living music in the moment, and music will heal you. It's a really really great watch. Uh, but I would discipline oneself. I've got more recommendations, but I will save them for our next episode. That's our quick take. It only took us 8 minutes to get it in this time. We're gonna try to squeeze it
Right.
in at the beginning, but it's you know what? It's too hard to talk about it, so maybe we don't squeeze in anything. You just got to go through 9 minutes. That's
We
just
can
what
do
you have
it.
to
We
do.
can like yeah. We can. I can plan it better next time to give things. I will.
All good in the hood. There is a new moon, a quarter moon today. This is kind of like this is a close up of it. Hold on a second. Come on. That's right outside my house. I always start projects on the quarter moon, and then we'll go through the new moon where you can't see it, and then the full quarter. I always do stuff sprint wise in my house during this time, so it's very auspicious. This night's like the start of it, and we're starting something new and awesome. Megan, when did we first start talking about this? Because when in my mind when it really solidified, I was traveling to Switzerland for work. I was in a small tube of a hotel. It was like just a tube. I had my own tube, and you weren't supposed to talk, and I forgot that. And I started talking to you because I got so excited because you told me that you were going to be having your first daughter, and you didn't know it was a daughter at that point. You just knew that you were having a kid at that point, and Georgie, as you mentioned, and we were going to wait until you we sort of were waiting for the pregnancy to come through, and then so it's been like it's been a year and change, year and 10 months almost.
But I that's how I do it.
It's cool. I love
Thanks
it.
for pushing me over the ledge. And now here we are, and I'm glad to be here. It's gonna be really fun. I
It's
think
gonna be really fun.
I think it's really fun to like it's like kind of like having book club, but for
Yes,
movies. And I think that's and especially you and I have to like, different and similar overlapping tastes. And I think that's fun because, kind of like being forced to listen to like a new kind of music. There are like no bad
that's
genres
right.
of music. There's also like no bad genres or types of shows. It's just like if you effectively do them or movies. And
There
so
you
I
go.
think fun. It keeps me from like, because I win everything with Matt. I don't have to like um I win all the battles of what we're gonna watch. So you're gonna force me
Yes.
to watch some stuff that I would normally watch. I did, however, would have watched The Killer, and I did watch it. It was one of
Yeah.
the last movies.
David Fincher.
It's one of my last movies I saw while I was pregnant. I was like very,
Okay.
it was a fall release, right, last
Mm.
year.
Hmm.
And so we watched that, and she danced a lot in my stomach during The Killer because there was a lot, like it had a pretty intense soundtrack. It was a loud
Oh
movie in the
God.
theaters, and it
Yeah.
was so
Yeah.
nice to be in the theaters. I have missed that
Yeah.
since I have been postpartum.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, The Killer was, it was our main event of choice of yours this week. Uh,
Yes. I there
which
was
I responded with my choice, which was
so
retrospect. I could have picked some more obviously complimentary films. I think I've just been waiting a long time to get you to watch. It's kind of fun and light.
listen, I know what you mean. I have got a backup myself of movies that I want to watch. I'm going to give you a choice at the end of this one. I've got a couple picked out for the next one. I've got different directions I can go in. This is Tampopo, which is dandelion in Japanese, and I love this. I love this poster because it's so like the movie. It's got these little vignettes. Here's the master and the student, the ramen master and the eager ramen student, which we barely meet. And you've got the two main characters, Tampopo, who Dandelion, who is a poor ramen chef at the beginning, and then the ramen master, the cowboy. I love the appropriation. It's amazing. I love the way the Japanese do this. This is beautiful. And
They, they satirize Americans very
I
well.
know it's really beautiful to see how. I think it's very cool to see how other cultures see us. That if you watch Flora and Son, you get a big dose of that. It's crazy how you see America from inside. You grow up in America. You sort of see all the whole range of it, and then that some part of that signal is going out wide, and then it's interesting to see what part lodges in people's brains and how it gets filtered and like reflected back. And we don't. I don't think we notice it as much in the continental United States. I'm coming here from Colorado because we're just surrounded by it. But when you leave the states, it's pretty obvious that Baywatch was the most popular movie in the world. You go to the Middle East and they're all watching The Simpsons. you know,
Yeah, for like Middle East, you go to Malaysia and you're like watching like
yeah,
Madagascar. Sometimes they have to edit it for content somehow, or you only can watch children's movies because a lot of the other ones just get cut, sliced, and diced, and you don't see that original of a film. The Japanese, they are willing to go far and in really, I think, elegant and kind of playful ways, like the way they use
yes,
nudity and sensuality and sexuality is, they're really good at it. And I think the whole film, Tampopo itself, was really about like kind of
yes,
how if somebody sees an outsider, a perceived outsider sees an inner thing, and who has a right to it, who has
yeah,
the right to know about French cuisine, also younger
yeah,
generations versus old, where your station life, and but yet it was about a very fundamental act, which is eating food. We all do
yeah,
it. So we're all kind of professionals if we're paying attention,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think that was kind of this
It
thing.
did make that point over and over again. I mean, the movie, I got the vibe over just high level. I got the vibe that someone was fascinated with the camera that someone had just handed them because they were just filming stuff that you would normally overlook, and they were just like, "Dude, when you film it, it changes or whatever." The movie closes with a woman nursing a baby, and it returns to that eating as community image over and over again, and it starts the movie with that. It starts with the way this movie starts is crazy because it breaks the fourth wall immediately, right? It
Mhm.
this guy in this white suit just walks right the heck up and he's like, "Yo, you're at the movies." Like and he sits down, he's got his girlfriend. They are never sort of integrated into the story. It's just this little vignettes of them doing stuff, and I have questions for you around his death at the end. I had some questions around this. But have you ever been to an Alamo Draft House? Like in the States, like it started in Austin and it's all over the place now. It's a kind of theater where you buy tickets and you have a seat, and they're very comfortable seats, and they have food out, and they've got a
Yes.
really good menu and a good and then have you ever actually been to an Alamo Draft House though specifically?
No, I went to Nighthawk in Brooklyn when I lived there,
Yes.
and then I've been
Yes.
kind of but so I know that kind of experience, and you end up
Yeah.
seeing interesting things. They also Yeah,
Yeah.
they're totally movie nerds.
They're total movie nerds, and they shame the entire audience. You've never seen it, but they at the beginning they literally have this moment where there's like, shame on you if you fuck up this movie. Don't make any noise. Don't do this, do that. If someone's a nerd, put their name on, rat them out is what it says. Put their name on a ticket and put it up, and you'll get one warning and you get ejected. Turn off your screens, kids. We're watching this movie. So they made a big deal about defending the honor of like the movie that was about being to be shown. And what's cool about the Alamo Drafthouse is that before we watch Dune, for example, they were playing like, an hour of YouTube extracts of all different kinds of Dune and Dune history and all this kind of stuff. So if you go to the movies early, you can see it. They also offer a movie pass, so you can. Cheryl and I don't live close enough to it, but if we did, we'd just be like, every night, let's watch more movies. But their whole program for a beat was called Birth, Movies, Death. Their entire marketing thrust was that. This guy, this white suit guy, he does the exact same thing. He's like, we're talking about food at the movies, but when this nerd, like, choose chips. Sometimes I don't like even the sound of a watch beat. He beats this guy. He beats the monkeys out of him. He wants to tear him apart. And then he also sits down and says this really crazy foreshadowing thing where he says, what he does is he makes the comparison between life and movies. It's like literally the first thing you see is the breaking of the fourth wall, and it's like they like just wall trip. He's like, we're talking about life, and that the last thing that happens is you watch a movie of your life, and I want it to be wonderful. And spoiler alert, he gets shot at the end and watches his last movie, takes his hat, puts it on his girlfriend. He's like, this is a great movie, and then he dies. So it's like birth, movies, death. I think the Alamo Drafthouse was inspired on this. This is like a direct lift. Their entire culture comes from this opening scene.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he takes it very, very seriously, like all in a almost hedonistic way, and he does.
How? Why does he get shot? I was totally. I got to confess, I fell asleep twice watching this movie, and so I've put it together in pieces. But it's vignette based, so it's okay. But
No,
but
no,
the
I think he takes kind of
do
a
we know
turn.
why he gets shot? Did he piss someone off?
I don't think so. I don't
He
remember
just he
that.
just gets shot, and there Topono learns ramen. There's this student teacher relationship. The Zen master, she chases him down and begs him to please teach me how to make excellent ramen, right? And there's this, more than anything, this story is about um you know learning how to make food, good food for the community, like heals the community and brings everybody together. It hits it over and over and over again, especially with all the babies at their mom's chest.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it definitely, and it looks at like food is sensuality, and it is like,
Yeah,
and I think it kind of looks at that in every form, all the textures and everything. Building the perfect bowl too. They were also like all these ingredients and how they had to be, and it was just like having fun with it when he tells at the beginning how to eat a bowl of ramen soup, how to look at it, and then
yeah,
and they were just really like fetishizing food to the max, which I think is awesome, and
yeah,
a lot of stuff about cultural norms in there too. I mean, just what it is to be part of a community and to engage in that as a performance. But then you have food, which is kind of dictates the performance if you're truly enjoying it, because it's and Japanese cuisine. If I had to pick like one country to eat from in the rest of for the rest of my life, it's like a question I
yeah.
like to ask people. I would pick Japan. I don't know what you would pick.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, I had never thought before. I have to think about it. But yeah, this is the master and the student scene, and it's like the oldest written document we have is the Diamond Sutra, which is about Zen Buddhism and like student teacher relationships. That's this again. It's like he's like it's all about the ramen, and then he goes through this overly complex explanation of how to deal with the pork and how to deal with this, and and when you should dip your thing and stuff. And it's wild.
yeah, apologize to it after you place it to the side. um,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah, I know, and yeah, respect for food in a different way.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think
Ceremony, ritual, the tea ceremony, the history,
how to
the
eat it and how to eat it and how new generations and how that's passing and who's like again like I really love the scene with the hobos where and then
hobos.
they kind of break into like an almost yeah, it's like about halfway through when they're going and they're still figuring out like how the noodles are made, but
Help me find it.
they go and the guy makes a he makes like an
Around
omelet
here.
over fried rice for the little kid, and it's kind of like almost like an old
There you go.
um
Right
yeah,
here.
yeah, this was like a really interesting just like moment
Yep.
um around. And also that all of these connoisseurs, and they eat really well, the guys that live out, because they take the leftovers from all of these like five-star hotels, that's what they say. And but they know about all the Bordeaux and all
Yeah.
any years of whatever that they're drinking, and I think that that's like
He's
it's
sneak. Okay, so they're sneaking in. They're sneaking into the French kitchen here.
yeah, here. But this
Yeah.
whole sequence, and this is just kind of like an aside that was really
Yeah.
interesting. But again, just like highlighting food, and that this guy can make like a perfect omelet, which is often like kind of like a litmus test for a chef, right? So these homeless
Yeah.
guys know more about food than most viewers, especially foreign, would. Um,
Yeah.
so I think I like that element of it, the outsider and insider, and just showing how like you said, it brings people together. I think that's really important kind of thing that exists for me in like a lot of isolation, the opposite of isolation that's in The Killer. So The Killer,
Yes.
like, and he also goes through all these facts and figures at the beginning. And so when I was trying to think of like the difference of
Yeah.
social commentary he makes, well, he also abandons his own rules when love comes into play. And so this is like a real love of food, um,
Yeah.
undertones of like having her want to, keep this place open in the honor of like her late husband. I think it's implied that he dies, and kind of do that. And she's pursuing it in love, and there's a lot of like care of bringing somebody up. And then you've got, what's our main actor's name in, oh my gosh,
And
Fassbender, right?
Michael Fassbender. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
he's great, and when he's in it, like how he's justifying his kind of performance
Yep.
and life choices through kind of showing how many people exist in the world, how quickly you die, how regular every life is, and it's
Yes.
kind of pulling
Yes.
out the sensuality of it. But then, of
It,
course, he
it's
breaks his own rules. But they're both films of pursuit. Is what it was kind of what I saw between,
yes.
and
Yes,
I
very much so. There's in The Killer, Michael Fassbender's character personifies like a detached, precise mechanic of life and death, and it's right there in the poster. It's he it's I love this poster. Let me find my poster. Where are you, poster? Where are you? The he says it very
you
it's
just
very
brought it up.
it's right there. Execution is everything. Right? And so there's the precision of everything that he does, and and of course it's execution that he's an assassin. And I think like I was thinking of it as like it's a fairy tale for adults in the sense that what are fairy tales? Fairy tales are stories of how kids can exist in wooded Germanic lands with bears in the woods essentially. The Grimm's fairy tales. Don't go in the woods. It's like a recipe for not getting lost, and you're using scary characters to make the point that there's danger out there, right? I think for me, it's this insanely nihilistic trip through his just infinite, in my view, kind of BS explanation of nothing means anything. I am in perfect control. I am the master. I missed. Wait a minute. What the fuck? And it's just that's the whole fucking story is it did not go how you thought it was going to go. There was another factor involved. What's that factor called? And he spends the whole time like shit talking it, whatever the Tao is, whatever the thing is that's running the whole thing or whatever.
Yeah, and
And
then done also by the fact of like how it's done. He breaks all his own rules out of like uh,
totally.
enact, enacting revenge, I think. And so,
Yeah,
kind of, it's
that's right.
interesting. So everything kind of goes haywire from the very beginning. I think, like, it was interesting that other people that reviewed it when it came out, I don't think people
Hmm.
appreciated it for what it
Oh,
was. I thought it was
yeah.
like a really clean movie too, the way it was made. I mean, he is so good because like a lot of David Fincher movies are long, right?
Yeah,
There,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you almost forget the third act in a lot of his movies, that there's like a whole other movie that's sometimes stuffed for me, like on the end of a or I'm sorry, David
Like
Fincher
David Fincher.
project.
Yep, yep,
I don't
yep.
know. I feel like he has really good third acts, and like it's like an expanded,
Yeah.
really long. And then this was just short. I mean, it was what, an hour and a half or 80 something minutes. I thought it was like a really short film. Um,
Yeah, very yes, yeah, yeah. It progressed extremely fast. It was really structured. The way they structured the cards, the seeing one, the sub, the subject or whatever, or the target, and then they. I mean, it was very crisp. It was just like you're moving along, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're done. You're home. You're driving home. The I can't. I'm monitoring our live strikes here, and if I play too much video, it'll do it. And so we're gonna go with stills on this thing. But this is the. Do you remember the opening scenes
I think
from
I put it
Fight
anyway.
Club? There's
Yeah,
David Fincher.
his credits or the opening scene.
The opening credits. It's like it's this montage where it's like
Yeah.
it's the same kind of electronic music. It's synthesizer music. It keeps that synthetic beat as it's kind of going, and it kind of you're flashing through the brain. This is the brain matter of the main character, and of course the entire movie, spoiler alert, is Tyler Durden, who's the imaginary, like super id or ego or whatever it would be. And then you've got the regular guy, the Edward Norton character, who's like the loser who can never, win with chicks or whatever. But doesn't have to because he's got this super personality that does it for him, right? Uh, do you know about all like the in between editing where Tyler Durden shows up like as in like little flashes throughout the scenes of Fight
Yeah.
Club?
Yeah.
Right. I feel like the opening of The Killer, it's literally 2-second montages of death. It's like, this is how you drown someone. This is how you poison them. This is how you shoot them. This is how you throw them off the side of a boat. This is how they have a baby in a coffin. You're just like, wait, did I see a baby in a coffin? It's onto something else. It's the same kind of thing, and it's the same kind of soundtrack. I think it has that same inner quality too, that the main character is sort of he's in his head a lot, like it's not organic. It's like he's
Alone.
like thinking about everything. Yeah.
Alone. I mean, most of the time.
Alone, that's right,
He's
very
alone.
lonely.
He sits and watches other people, and he's detached. I think he's quite literally a character that, like, both like in his day to day life is physically and tangibly detached from the world. He's sitting in
Yeah,
like, he's always in these empty spaces.
yeah,
Um, he kind of exists like, I mean, he wasn't there. He's invisible, and so to watch him become like much more visible over the course of the movie, like even to his own detriment, and then have to like is interesting. But it was just one mistake, I suppose. Do you think there was anything deeper to the mistake? Like when that
yeah.
happens, what distracted? Did he do? What was that moment like, or was it just
You
random?
know, okay. There's a scene later that I think speaks to this, where he's trying to get back to his home base, but he sees a guy with like random blue socks, like in the airplane, and then he sees the same guy in the airport, and it's like a superstition moment for him. He's trying to scrub all belief out of his. He's trying to be a perfect robot, but then the universe throws him 2 sets of blue socks, and it's got to mean something. So he takes an extra night, stays in the hotel, sits with a knife by the bed, orders room service, not to eat because that'd be too human, but to like put a glass above the handle, and like if the glass falls, it's gonna bang and he just sits there like a killer in the corner. I mean, it's the killer. He's yeah, isolated's like an understatement, right?
Yeah, like, but the thing, yeah, and just tapped into a totally different language of the world and how it works.
Yeah,
But he does feel something for this woman, and just the blustering curtains
he
when you
loves
walk
her
in. Yeah, he walks,
clearly.
but he loves her because he abandons everything. But like, you don't see the relationship at any length of time,
Fruits on the tree.
and
What are you willing to do?
but I think, yeah, I think the fact that and he also had to clean it up. It was for himself as well. But I think like a lot of people felt it was quite cold, because I remember like kind of, I try
Yeah,
not to look at movies, but as soon as I went to see it, I was like, wow, it surprised me. It was just like really clean. It didn't get involved into too much backstory. It existed in the present moment very much,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I, I think for some people they felt that was cold, but I think that was the point.
Totally. He says it. He says, "I'm not exceptional. I'm just a part." And then he goes into that whole explanation about how many people die like every second, and how many like in some given number of seconds, certain number of people are born, certain number of people are die. 3 times as many people are born than die, or 4 times as many. He goes, what I do will not make any dent in these numbers. He's literally seeing himself from the largest possible. Like, here's the cosmic view. The speck of dust doesn't matter, but I think the key, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't say this is what was the artist's intention, but for me, the koan that you're picking at there is he right? Is it fucking meaningless? Because nihilism and mechanicalizing everything and like describing everything in terms of its parts is a reductive strategy that nihilism just means that you break it down to its parts and then you just go, and so it doesn't matter. It's just because you can describe something fundamentally, even accurately, doesn't mean that its totality doesn't have like a meaning, in some way. And there's he takes it down just one philosophy after another. He's like, there's no karma. That's the Buddha. There's no. He keeps going. He says he has this quote where he says, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," and he goes, "Said somebody." Do you recognize that quote?
In his opening monologue,
Yeah.
did somebody else say that? That was like,
Aleister Crowley, the inventor of Satanism as a religion, said that.
okay, wow,
he
yeah,
he created a society called the Law of Thelema, which is this belief system, which is essentially like, um, it's literal Satanism. And what's crazy is when you hear punk rockers or people online describing how they're Satanists, they sound like really conscientious Christians in my view. I know that's going to drive people insane because it's just so damn close. Like it's just like a little tweak. Like he's like, you should have control, Aleister Crowley. You should have control of your willpower so you can do whatever you want with it. But then you should only do good with it because it's karma. And it's like, yeah, there's a name for that, dude. It's like Christianity or whatever. It's like there's so many. It's kind of like a bait and switch at the end of Satanism in a certain way. It's like I grew up. Well, we grew up in Kansas City, and there was a big kind of Wiccan community. And meeting all these Wiccans, sure, there were some that were just dyed in the wool, just really had it down for those practices. But a lot of them look like kids who got the wrong end of the stick at some religious service, or just got shunned or shamed in some way, and they really had a beef with the church and they were kind of fighting their own little thing. And so, the paganism that they were producing looked like holding up chalices and doing communions and talking to saints and praying to God in their own way. And just like, this is not radically different from Christianity.
I mean,
This is the
well,
ranting.
anything that's like where everybody meets in a building, always for me in that way. I mean, well, it can be nice. I think Baptist, when they
Yeah,
sing songs, like they're really seeming to have fun, so that's an interesting environment. But in a lot of ways, like other than like the stories that are told, like you have some really good people that give sermons and things. I've always found it to look quite cult-like. So
yeah, yeah.
I think, like,
And you just can't avoid it when you're gathering people together, even if you're trying to be the most rebellious of the rebellious, like the rebellious angel Lucifer or whatever. It's crazy.
Um, so do you think, like, I think that, yeah, I think he was kind of trying to detach from all of those things, but
Right.
he did say another quote that he said in there that was in that same monologue was, it's the idle hours that most often lead a man to ruin. And I found that
That's
really
yeah.
interesting.
Very
Um,
much about the virtues, and that's like kind of virtue pointing, right? Like the virtues are being industrious and being like dedicated, like hardworking and this kind of stuff. Yeah, he's
well,
he's kind of trying to make a code for himself, like the samurai had the bushido, and you kind of see a little of that in Tampopo, where it's like they've got a little of that bushido, the honor of the samurai, the honor of the student teacher relationship thing.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's also just justifying why he does what he does, which he does for an exorbitant amount of money as well. I think that he used, like, it's kind of how he
It
tells it.
was
He's kind of controlling himself. So I saw him talking himself off the ledge in a lot of ways. When he's kind of saying that, it's like he was kind of pepping himself up. We were listening to his inner monologue. And
yeah,
so, one is born, one lives their life, and eventually one dies. Like his way of narrating the world, and justifying his sense of self, I think is what absolves him of the guilt to continue on in that way. And then when
Yeah.
somebody breaks through his special bubble that exists in Puerto Rico, I think it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like really he cares a lot when someone of his own is and when that bubble is burst. When he goes out into the world, it's very much like a game. I think that there was like a lot of American commentary on like highly individualistic society in the United
Yes.
States. And I think
Yes.
that, so I think there was a lot going on with that. Like, again, I thought a lot of people ended up saying, oh, this didn't have a lot of deeper meaning, but I think it did. I think like showing, because that opening
Yeah.
monologue says everything, and then the
Yeah.
subsequent conversations. But he definitely has a code, and he follows it. But when he says like, you know, when he said I'm not exceptional, I'm just a part, is what he
Yeah.
says. And
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that's interesting. He's a part of this bigger machine, so he's just participating in it and getting his Plinko chip as it falls down, like
Yeah.
anybody else. And he's justifying by saying, "There's so many of us. These people do this. This was a bit like, you know, it's a way to distance himself and kind of see, like almost like kind of Elon Musk talks sometimes. Where he's like
Yeah.
human beings. It like which when you're saying that, it's like instead of saying we, you say human beings. It's like you're creating distance from yourself and other and like human beings, so like people that are kind of playing this thing, but
Yeah.
also you exist for like the whole world that controls the world, like the people that are hiring him, and to take
Yeah.
a hit on him that expensive is this is like the
Well, it's funny to me because they say the amount. Do you remember the amount that he gets paid to do this whole thing? It was $150,000. That to me
that's
sounds like a
it.
low. That's what they say. Yeah, they at one point they pull out and they say $150,000. For me, it's like a dude. I don't know. Like when you're at work or whatever, maybe you don't have that later on your personal account, but like when you're at work, you're like, dude, if I just went rogue, I got like 3 people here. I could on payroll. I could, But here's the key: there aren't actual assassins in the world. That's something I've heard from the like FBI insiders.
It's
They're like when people
mercenaries.
there's really not someone you can call and like there's corporate murder, there certainly is, but
You definitely can call people, like I can't reveal my sources because, but
sure,
uh,
you
I
nice,
have
nice.
no good authority that
A
corporate
call can be made and
people
Michael
money.
Fassbender can show up in a window.
I just know somebody that they needed to get their kid out of a hairy situation, and they had used their otherwise corporate knowledge of hiring these kinds of people to be able to get a mercenary,
Yeah.
and like, and for hire, he would do something like deal with like a gang or it'd be an
Yeah.
intermediary. But
Yeah.
so I can imagine that it goes a step farther. The thing is like people get. I think they're not killing, but they're doing other like dirty things because
Private military contractors, yeah,
this year,
absolutely.
but I mean, we cover like, yeah, I don't know. I like to think that there's still this, you know, cabal of evil people that are quite organized. I don't know that that's totally how it works.
Yeah. No, no, no. Organized crime. It really is. Yes. The reason I say it's like a fairy tale is because I think the whole thing comes together in that scene with the Gen Xer with the Sub Pop shirt on. Sub Pop was like the big Nirvana label. I think is on Nirvana's on Sub
Remind
Pop.
me what
All the Yeah, from the 90s. Yeah, yeah. It was just like kind of a
so what
the Gen
part
Xer in,
of the movie is this?
at the end of The Killer when he actually breaks into the penthouse. And he
Okay.
goes, "You don't know why I'm here. That's how you're living. I can be here and you could be dead like that, and you don't know why. That's how loose you're living." And and it's like that's the fairy tale. It's like everybody who would put this in motion must. This is actually karma. It's hilarious that he's like, "There's no karma," and then he enacts it. You know, it's like everybody who fucked with this thread and this strand got their due.
I think that's kind of the thing. His whole thing is proven otherwise, like
I
with his.
know he does it well. And the Tyler Durden thing, there's slip up moments. There's only like 3 or 4 of them, but one's at the last like half second of the movie where you get this like twitch in his thing. He's like, "You might be like me, like normal." I twitch, and it's the Tyler Durden shake of the camera, like in that David Fincher Fight Club kind of metaphor. And you get a couple of breaks like that, like this one here. We're on our next version of this. We're gonna have stills ready for everything, so you can't. But I can't. Okay, so he's in the Paris. Okay, first off, Paris, right? He, if somebody loves Paris, and somebody wanted to show us what Paris was like. Like they, what's the line in the movie? Paris awakes unlike any other city,
Right.
slowly. and then you hear it. You hear the birds, the doves, you hear the porches opening, the cats getting fed, the people coming
Yeah.
out, the little stores. You feel it wake up. It doesn't have the diesel churn of Germany or something else, or Dusseldorf, or I can't remember what he says. And then you
Yes,
know
it have personalities for sure.
somebody loved Paris and was trying to communicate this beauty like through this stuff, this great camera work. But he's got out his scope and he's sighting, and I can't play the motion of it, but he goes from people's heads. He's comical about it. He sights their heads, he sights their hearts. He basically does these little kill shots. That guy sights his pelvis. He's got his hands across his pelvis, and you I won't be able to find it in here, but there's this beautiful. Well, it's then he sights a kid and hit headshot, heart shot. And then that cuts to his face and he smiles and he's got this open heart, Michael Fassbender. And he's like, of course you wouldn't shoot a child. Don't be dumb. He's
Right.
kind of like making it's like this little joke. Like, of course there's, you don't go crazy with this. You kill the bad people or you. And it's not the bad people because he goes out of his way to say there's
The
no good and
people in
bad.
the game, the people that are in
Yeah,
the game.
there you go.
I think
There you go.
we don't know that he hasn't killed
Yeah.
um, people along the way, but I think the idea is that
Hmm.
he's so clean and good at it that he kind of like pops in and out. And this time he has something to clean. He has to clean up more back of house though.
Yeah.
Um, it's like
Totally.
a lot like in retrospect, I thought, what could I have offered that was like kind of like I wasn't even looking playful. I was thinking of like female driven things actually at first. And I thought, Kill Bill is like it has a lot in common with this.
Yes.
There's a lot of film references in that film as well.
Yep.
A real filmmaker's film. And then when they just get to this point in their career, somebody like David Finch, he's like, I don't need 200 and, 5 minutes to tell a story anymore.
Yeah.
I can do
Yeah.
this in like an hour and a half because it's
Yeah.
such a clean. His references are, like I said, they're so direct. Um,
Yeah.
he's really, I don't know, like the camera work, like you said, like a lot of those things seemed like really simple shots, but they're not, and they're just done so well. Like
Beautiful glass, like just the craziest detail on like the
that
concrete and like
scoping,
the handlebars. Go ahead, say it.
that scoping around, like the precision of it being like that
That's right.
one shot,
That's
and
right.
just
Yeah.
kind of thinking of it and playing with like other films that have done that in the past. They did a lot of that. I think there was even some wipes and things like that. Like I don't know if they
Yeah.
did any dissolves in this movie, but I felt like he was doing a lot of kind of that old kind of 70s, like really much a nod to the cinema.
As the airplane lands, it's a swipe from right to left as the plane comes through.
Yeah.
You're in this. You're back in the city or whatever.
And like the choreography was exquisite, but he didn't do anything loud. It was just like a very like, I don't know, like
It was a
elegant.
machine. It was a smooth clock, and you were just along for the ride. And he's just like he's talking about this, he's talking about this, and he misses. And it's like, wait, what? It's like there, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I didn't see that going down like that then, so I was quite
yeah,
surprised. And yeah, and it just like and often you're running. So the movie, like, I mean, maybe that opening is 8 minutes or and kind of
yeah,
follows a really tight, like normal script. It doesn't
sure,
feel that way. You feel like you've just been he's done anything. He has the little scare the night before with the people coming in,
yep,
like check out the space or something, or WeWork people, who knows what they're in these buildings for. But he's yeah, he like it's very great like how he as soon as it starts, we don't get
hmm
like a whole decision time. A lot of
yeah,
characters after something happens, or you have the opening or the prologue,
yeah,
an event off at least like a period of thought. He just goes, and then the whole rest
yeah.
of the movie like moves like in the same way as that Mel Gibson movie, but it was longer. What's the one that? Oh my gosh, the chase movie that Mel Gibson directed about like Incas, but it was like kind of Mayans. And there was some
Oh, Apocalypto,
Apocalypto where it's just like boom, you're off and you're going and you're like on this kind of mission and you get through all these
dude.
obstacles to get home. Well, like
Yeah,
he goes home
the
and
the what's the right way to say it? The twist in the last like 30 seconds of that movie is so crazy and legendary. Like you remember how it ends?
what?
Apocalypto
Oh yeah, well the boots.
with the ships arriving.
Yeah, and the boots like are getting into the water.
Yeah, that's
And
right. That's right.
after
The
all this, he's still fucked. He's so
After all this, here come the Spaniards. We know how that works out for everyone.
yeah,
Yeah,
91, right?
that's Mel Gibson being like, you could say some nicer things about Christianity. You don't always have to be like so hard on it. It's like, it's like,
Well, the
I
thing is they didn't come. It wasn't like bad about the missionaries. Really, the thing that got them, like they were already suffering, like they were having
hmm
intertribal stuff going on, but then they were
yeah, they were
also
very violent. Those guys,
there
totally.
was also droughts around the time. So a lot of
Yeah,
like when these
that's right.
civilizations ended, were climate change involved, and then people come over, not just with the guns and everything like that, but with because you kind of see how it swept across Mexico. So different,
Yes.
you go from Mayans to Zapotecs, right? Um,
Yeah.
like when they kind of slowly moved, like you don't move
hmm
fast, especially when like you're kind of colonizing a country. But it was the disease. They were
Yeah,
all wiped
totally.
out by
Guns,
disease.
Germs, and Steel. Yeah.
That's a great book.
Great book. Great book. Yeah. And
Matt
and and
was
and the thing about that's the thing about colonization that is just they were carrying the Europeans were living close to their livestock according to that book and had grown up in mangers and so had gotten all the cowpox you can get and so didn't the smallpox didn't hurt them as bad. And so when they show up, just the stuff they're carrying wiped out 90% of America before they even, and that's why it was just a role to like for all these populations were decimated by disease.
but
Yeah,
yeah, but we had, and so I mean, obviously, Killer doesn't end that way, but definitely the pacing of the movie of just
sure,
being thing after thing. I'm not usually drawn to like a big long action sequence
sure,
of a
yeah, yeah,
movie.
yeah,
This was done in a really, really nice way. It was also swift. It didn't hang out too much on it, everything. Although I like Kill
yes.
Bill, where it was more of an introduction of each character. This one just went faster. I just felt like he was like, okay, I'm going to cut through all that. So you have to search for what Fincher really meant, or what he was
Yeah,
trying to say. I mean, I
yeah.
think a lot of it was that you do need community, or you do like
I Yeah, I don't think he was trying to say as much as he was like laying out like a buffet of experiences you could have. But it's I think in the same way that at the end of Fight Club, it turns to the camera and goes like, "What do you think?" and like and like fuzzes out. It's kind of like you just saw a perspective, but it's not preachy.
Fight Club's an undoing though.
What's
Like
that? Say that again?
Fight Club is like a person unraveling though as well. Whereas this
Sure.
was he was unraveling, but it didn't really matter because he could he was so in
Yeah.
control still. I think he was just
Execution
like
is
it was
everything. It's a
hypocritical.
precision. Say again.
He was a very hypocritical character in this, and it didn't matter. Like he was just like it was a game. I don't know. I don't know if anything changed in him at the
He
end.
from the first frame he says, "Don't look to me to be an example." Like from the first second, he's saying something to you. He's like, "Don't do what I'm about to show you I do." So it's
Uh,
like a fairy tale like that in a certain way. Like you watch like okay, so you watch a piece of art, a movie that takes you into a story in a very intimate way, and in the same way the Greeks thought that catharsis could teach the crowds. Catharsis was thought. Did you ever hear about the telestron and the cake? Okay, so the cake. Okay, this is a deeper thread for us over many episodes. But if you're in ancient Greece and you're going to the movies, you're going to the telestron, which is a certain kind of theater you go to, and they serve a certain kind of beer. And Brian Muraresco has done the science and the chemical the archochemistry to like show that there's like different kinds of pharmacon or extracts that go into these beers, and some of them were rye based, which means they were ergot based, which means they were probably a little like LSD. Can you imagine if you went to the theater, they handed you a giant cup of like a little bit more than a microdose of LSD, and everybody in the audience went into a collective trance state and like watched, Oedipus go through his thing and Ulysses go through his thing and like all the big stuff.
wow.
That was they were talking about a way that community comes together through stories, and they were talking about and they were enabling it through chemistry, not as taking drugs and escaping, but as deepening empathy and group cohesion, as like a kind of like a structure. The a couple of thoughts here on this. The Mayans on Apocalypto, I saw this great science exhibit one time, and they had very accurate astronomical observations that could all be made from Earth, but only if you paid attention for a really long time. So they were really, 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 really good at that. But they didn't probably have UFOs because they went through climate change, and 200 miles south, it was fine. If they would have moved their empire 200 miles, they would have moved.
Yeah.
There's so many Aztecs down. That instead they were sacrificing humans because they were probably taking too many mushrooms and, getting hooked up with darker spirits as a point of worship probably rather than like the true source of light or something like that.
It also was very much a form of control, right? These mighty
Yeah.
structures that they build. I mean, we appreciate them on an architectural level, but can you
Yeah.
imagine being somebody in those times and you walk up and
You'd
you
be
see a
no one.
structure like that, and
Yep.
it's all adorned, and there's a life going on around this place, and and they still didn't let everybody walk up these temples,
No. There's the most holy of holies, right?
right? So they're not. That's why they're probably well kept overall, even despite many
Yeah.
renovations. But yeah, they are so grand, and the cities are much bigger than we thought.
They're huge. They basically open up those databases to kids in uh like you give like kids an API access to like a Google Maps, and they can like run algorithms based on the shapes of what they're interacting with. We're probably having a little bit of a looks like we're having a little bit of a buffering issue with Meg there. I'll just keep going here. We'll catch her up in a sec. But you uh like eighth graders for their science projects are like discovering straight lines in the jungles of South America, and then they're able to like extrapolate like city complexes based on that. Like they'll find a good straight line and they'll back into like a whole. Oh, when you kind of squint, you can see these would be the roads, or this is where the Parthenon went, or their version of it, or whatever. And you can kind of get back into it that way.
Okay,
Hey,
wait.
you're back. You're back.
Yeah, I don't know. My internet was. I don't know. Is it
All
my
good. No
internet?
worries. All good. What I was saying is the Apocalypto, what you were saying there about people discovering new stuff. There was just an article released, I was reading it today, about a Japanese lab who used AI to take just Google's Earth photos, like that level of detail of the Nazca area with the Nazca lines. I don't remember the number. They've identified like 83 Nazca lines. The AI suggested 2,100 additional structures, and they just released their first findings, which was an additional like 600 or something structures that they found that were minor and that the human eye just would miss. But AI is like 300, like way, way, way faster at
Like
finding this
lidar
stuff.
scanning and looking for things.
Yep.
They're doing all
Even
sorts.
just even just visual images from space will do it. Yeah, with these AIs. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of those things are in people's backyards. And they don't even know they own a lot of land.
that's
Uh,
right.
but
That's right.
they discovered that there was like a cenote in one of the ones at Chichen Itza. Um,
Oh,
like went around for the documentary I'm making, that we were
nice.
going around with like a tour guide that was there, and he was kind of telling us a lot of stuff, and then we met, and but he had some of these people are tour guiding have some like kind of crazy educations in terms of like archaeology or and in their own country and culturally. So it was like really pretty interesting, to go around there,
I
and
love it.
they make it very difficult to film though. But all the Instagrammers go. But if you want to take a camera in, like a camera that has any kind of lens on it,
Yeah.
I put our 12 millimeter on, which is pretty short, but it's just having a body of a camera. The Black Magic is looks almost like
Yeah.
kind of like a Canon Mark II or something. It looks like a still camera, but they get
Yeah.
really weary of certain ones. They let me bring that in, but they did
Hmm.
not let my camera woman bring in a 8 millimeter
Oh wow.
because they don't want it for like commercial use. But we are like filming in there to just pick up whatever we could anyway, and then see if we can include it later because we were there. It's or like because you could pull stuff down off Instagram and like sweep that way and put it in your documentary or film it. So I just hired somebody that would be filming as a tourist, and then
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah. Yeah.
buy her footage from her. That's why I had a cameraman that day. But yeah, the Black Magic, I have the
Hmm.
Pocket, not the new one. The Ursa is crazy. I have a friend that shoots on that, but he's doing in raw. He's making more of like visual art
Wow.
with it, and so they're doing a hell of a lot of post production work,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
and CG, like just drawing and needing like that kind of thing. But yeah, they're
Okay. So
great.
this is what you're shooting with here.
Yeah,
Nice.
and then I just they have their pros and cons. It's
Yeah.
really easy user. Like it's like easy,
Nice.
much easier than a Sony to just like tap
Sure.
on. Like it's great. It has like a really cinematic quality. I really like it. It's also cheap. Like you can
Yeah. Yeah.
for
You could lose that and not like die of shame.
yeah, and also like you don't need like you can find really good lenses We
Yeah.
found like we're not like the fanciest lenses. Of course, like I still want to zoom, but like a really big zoom, then you have to stabilize. It's like a whole thing of like learning how
Hmm.
to like balance the camera was
Yeah.
a learning curve for me. So I like to keep it really like light, and try to, tripods are great.
Yeah. Okay, there's before we get off of the killer into Tampopo, I got one more like little thread of insights here, and it had to do with the transformation. This whole movie was about transformation through food. There's this is like a still here of the after Tampopo Dandelion learns how to make the ramen, all of these characters are just filled with pride, and she starts glowing. We see her in white. She's in this beautiful environment. Here's her Zen teacher who's like staring at her with eyes of love and approval, and she's in this glowing, backlit modern, because this is shot probably in the 90s, right? And in Japan. And this okay, so Tampopo has a couple of little like curveballs in it, and this is kind of one here where it's like I never thought a woman could cook great ramen, and this
Yeah,
is
of
but now
course.
I see that I was wrong. So they were kind of like making a little homage to like how like sexist the society can be in relationship to student and teacher and everything. He's all it's this beautiful healing at the end. It's like it goes from a dark and rainy night to a beautiful sunny day, kind of as an arc in this thing. And then here's this not a lot of facial expression, and then this, see, I did it, and that's me. That's me being an awesome Japanese chick doing cool shit, man. Here out here in these streets, I can make ramen like the dudes.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it's a whole thing, right? The broth is a big deal. I mean,
yes,
like it inspired me because I rewatched it last night before bed, because I hadn't
yeah,
seen it since I don't know,
yeah.
to the last person. Anyway, we got ramen today.
You make sense to me. What did you make of like the crazy sex scenes in this one? It just seems like they were taped in there. They were just like kind of shocking. All of a sudden, we're like watching crawdads on someone's skin. And we're just like, ah, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I thought it was like food is very sensual. It's kind of their ritual. Like you're talking a lot of, we were mentioning Mayans and
Yeah,
things like that. I mean, I think
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
the food, like you were supposed to stroke the noodles in the very opening scene. These people are just
yeah,
like major food hedonists. They take it to a fetishistic level. I think food is the religion in this movie.
yeah.
It's
It's like
like
a substitute for like the Tao, the
it's
center, the center
life.
of it all.
There are
Yeah.
people, somebody once said to me, there's two kind of people in the world. There's the people where like their whole day revolves around their meals, like
Mm.
everything they do. Like I've lived with that. Like I lived with this guy Otto, this fisherman, for a while
Yes.
during the pandemic in on an atoll in French Polynesia, and their whole day is about food, from what they
Huh.
do, like
Yeah.
and I think there are a lot of societies that are like this. I think, like the Japanese are like quite modern, make the best electronics in the world, right? But
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
also like spend a lot of time, like cuisine's very important to them,
Yeah.
culturally. So they were trying to put that out there too. I think
Yeah.
um, that I think it was trying to look at it that way.
I'm thinking about that scene where they interpret the spaghetti, and they're all trying to be super proper, and then the Westerner gives them permission to be like all slurpy with the spaghetti, like
Even she slurred, and
it's like it's slurping and burping, right? That's like a sign of respect in their cuisine. It's like a burp afterwards is required to show the host that you are satisfied with what has happened here.
what happens is that it's this etiquette class, and you've
Yeah.
got them on one side, and they're mostly women, I think, young girls, like a cotillion class, and they're trying to
Yeah.
teach them how to eat European food. We've just seen like
Totally.
a group of businessmen order all a beer with like fine French cuisine, so not quite getting it right. So then we go
Yeah.
to a woman who's like teaching how it is like Emily Post style. Like you need to wrap 4 to 5 strands around your spoon, and they all do it very awkwardly. And then what do you see across the room is like, oh, this very loud white guy, obviously Western,
Just
slurping,
loving being Japanese with the eating of
getting
this
to
of
actually
this noodle.
getting to enjoy the food and having it be
Yeah.
like this whole 4D experience.
Like this, they do this thing.
So those
Yeah.
people in the sex scene were just very free with it. They were broken through that to the point where they're playing with their food. They're not trying to stuff down their feelings about it and trying to
There you
perform
go.
something else. They're really
Okay.
tasting and feeling the
Interesting.
food. And I think he does that. Like he goes to the beach, right? Here's the
Yeah.
beach. He's totally flirting with this very young girl, and he's
Yeah.
eating
Yeah.
the oyster raw, and he's
Yeah.
like, but
Right. Right. Right.
he gets cut, and it becomes
Yeah.
this whole like sensual thing. So it's like it
Yeah.
keeps you alive. It's like, I mean, the
Pain, the sensuality helps with the pain. The indulgent, the food helps with the flow of life and death.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think they really like. I think we don't appreciate as much like Americans like food.
Mm.
The French, for example, they reference France a lot because it's known to have like some of the best like
Cuisine.
hardcore chefs in the world, and I'm sure that Japan and France has had some competition with that, but also love for each other's, borrowing from each other's. Right, the Japanese
Yeah.
are really big buyers of wine. I don't know if you ever saw Drops of God.
I saw it come through. I hadn't watched it.
It's good. It's surprisingly good. It's also like cool to see Netflix, which also did The Killer. That they're
Yeah.
hit or miss a lot, but when they get a really good filmmaker, and it's great. Drops of God was fun. It was really wine was
Mm.
a religion in them, and
There you
it was
go.
in three languages. So
Yeah.
Netflix has been kind of trying to normalize having to read subtitles part of the time, which I think we miss
Yeah.
out on a lot of really great films because of that.
Yeah.
And so
Wait.
I think
Like
Tampopo.
people are getting more used to subtitles via Netflix or less like
Well,
them or
Netflix has done something really interesting because in Drops of God, there's three languages spoken. So you have English, but you also have to read subtitles maybe
there
a
you go.
third or two-thirds of the time where it's in
Yeah.
French or in
Yeah.
Japanese. Then you're also
Yeah.
opening yourself to the Japanese market because the
There you go.
Japanese need to read a little Japanese sometimes. Because it takes
Smart.
me out of it. Like David Fincher, for whatever reason, they must have chosen this, but he did not speak Spanish. And he's living in Puerto Rico and he's with a Puerto Rican chick,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
think they're in Puerto Rico, but
He just
regardless, they're
mumbles
in a
some Spanish. Yeah.
Spanish speaking. He's speaking to people on the ground in English. Is that's for our benefit? Why
Yeah.
are they speaking in English? Like, because
Sure.
Michael Fassbender's the type where he would learn Spanish enough his lines in Spanish in a perfect accent if that's what he saw the character as, but he
Mm.
didn't. I mean, I think he's a pretty
Yeah.
like in the weeds actor. He's
He,
disappears into
it,
roles, so it was a choice, I think,
dude,
deliberately.
the yoga and the energy and the breath control that he demonstrates is just like it's on par. It's the precision of the instrument, it's the precision of his mind, it's the precision of his form. It's like the whole thing. He's like it like draws a line through the whole thing. An excellent performance, unbelievably good. I wanted to make sure that we properly introduced ourselves because we haven't done it and we're in our first hour here. But this is deeper into movies, and this is my sister Megan, and we grew up under the same house, and we both went off in different creative directions after we left that roof. And you spent some time, Megan, in Los Angeles and in the industry, and we've always had a similarity around this. And I have been wanting to do this podcast with you for years. To have a reason to watch great movies and to have someone to share it with and to talk with. And I say we broadcast it to the world and we give everyone a little micro PhD in or movie appreciation.
I think well, I think that's also the thing with movies and both of the like killer.
Yeah,
They it's about everybody gets to watch a movie. Everybody's a professional. Like everybody's
yeah.
really a storyteller because we all grow up watching movies, just like we all grew up eating. And the killer is just like a celebration of that. Okay, well, yeah, I'm Megan. I'm your sister. Uh,
Woo!
I'm coming to you from Montreal, Canada. So I am seeing us from the outside, even if just only slightly.
Yes.
So outside the United States is kind of nice right now. It's very
Yeah,
peaceful.
I agree. I imagine so. We're gearing up here for like Walk Down 2.0, something crazy,
Everybody's
October
watching.
surprise.
Everybody's watching up here too. It's like it feels
We've had
less
multiple
impactful.
assassination attempts in like the last like 6 weeks. No one can remember that it happened. It's insanity.
Yeah, I think it's always a period of time. So when you think about movies that are coming out, you know,
Yeah,
2023. So kind of, I think also like you have to. It's interesting what's playing. You know, we still have a lot of big science fiction, but we're getting a lot
hmm
more thrillers, mainstreaming horror.
totally.
Um, I don't know. Like we had a lot of fantasy and escapism for early 2000s. Um, so it was interesting to see this kind of this cold action movie coming out. But I guess otherwise,
Did you see Talk to Me as a thriller?
I have
That
not seen it yet. It's on my list. My Australian
okay.
friend Vanessa,
Yeah.
who's like a filmmaker herself, she told me to watch it. It was great, but I haven't had a chance.
Did you watch
Um,
the two brothers who made it? It was autobiographical. One of the brothers died of a drug overdose, and his sister held his hand in the ER, and he wrote the whole script based on that experience, and it comes across exactly what he was experiencing in the movie. It's a great vision realized. The Joe Rogan experience is a very technologically stable experience. They've got great equipment. Joe's got great facilities. During their JRE appearance, the power to the studio cut not once, twice, three, but four times. Four times during their JRE, it's like they have spirits around them, and it attacked the electrical grid, and the whole thing goes off. And they're like, Joe's like spooked by the end of it. So I heard them on the JRE, and then I watched that, and it's way more than a horror movie. It's a I think the impulse spiritually behind horror movies is to talk about the corner cases of human experience that are spiritual that don't get captured under regular religious stuff, because that's where you put all the possession and you put all of the spirit stuff, like the nasty spirits. It's like, oh, it's a horror movie, it's a nasty spirit or whatever. That it like kind of catches a whole bunch of that stuff. But yeah, good horror movie, that one.
yeah, horror movies I think are a way to discuss things that we find too grotesque in ourselves, and so we like amplify
There you
it.
go.
And I think
Yeah.
that's why horror's like been really female driven like lately per my suggestion. Like I think horror thriller, but also like what is scary
Mm.
and why are we all not paying attention? I think the idea of like, well, if assassin doesn't exist, if all the like, I mean, a cowboy and a ramen western.
Yeah.
I
A
think,
ramen western.
yeah, what is going on in society at the time to do that? I mean, that was one of my
Yeah.
questions. I did only, that was one of my main questions is like what you think, because they were both made comments about society and how we live in
Yeah.
it. Um,
Yeah.
and he only used, wasn't it the only, in the killer was only the Smiths, I think. The
I
whole
think
time.
so. That's right. And right at the end, it's so beautiful. Like literally, ending credits, that song. If it's the song about dying together. It'd be so beautiful. I can da 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 da. They're on a bus and a car crashes in and it slows everything down and it's I'm so glad I'm dying with you. It's like fun at the end. Yeah, the Smiths. That was a beautiful homage to the Smiths through that whole thing. That's what they used for almost everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's always really interesting because a lot of the time I like that they did that almost like a composure because I get actually kind of annoyed in a lot of movies when songs that are played because music's so powerful and how you
Yeah,
choose. And I felt like a lot of movies, more mainstream movies, but movies and TV now, they're
they
either
cheat with
assaulting
it.
you with music or
Yeah,
they're doing something that's just like so unrelated. It's just like a song of because what they're trying to, I don't know, prove that the emotion is instead of it being emotional tie to if that makes sense like so
yeah,
I'm really into things where like they only like the show industry I love on HBO they've been
sure.
using like synth kind of like low echoey almost like Max Richter sounds out
Yeah,
like for the whole movie like but more synthy
yeah,
for
totally.
3 seasons and they're not putting in songs that are like Taylor Swift or I don't even
Yep,
know who, like
yep.
or even just like the overplayed Rolling Stone song
Oh
and the,
God, yeah, totally.
everybody's
Yeah,
using something ironically but especially lyrics and songs I really like it when there's a composer made the thing for and he didn't do that in this but he at least kept all of the same tone genre and I think
yeah.
artist so in a way they did compose the soundtrack to it
Big
um
time. There,
because
there, there was, there's
this
great,
makes
there's
it
great
too.
builds and tension held with the electronic music. It's also like a metronome. So much of his stuff is time based. So like da, 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 da. Like the door only opens for this many seconds. You gotta do this. So, it's just opening and closing windows of opportunity. The In the Bear, the songs they use a lot of the Pixies and they play a lot of 90s like grungy stuff and they play a lot of the Breeders, which it's fun to hear songs like that from like my youth, my high school days and stuff. But yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like when people like just put in a song they like.
Yeah,
So,
I get that, but I also think people are trying to do it for other reasons or because they're trying to convey something instead of the music being like complementary to what's going on in the scene and enhancing it.
sure.
It's like trying to put a mood on it or everything or things become music videos. That's what I really didn't like about Civil War. I was like, oh my gosh, like you're totally showing off that you have good cinematography, but none of it's serving the film and
I
what you
know.
say. And it also just feels so goddamn pretty. Like
It's
I don't like
beautiful.
this was
Beautiful
beautiful.
war.
The
Beautiful
killer
war.
was the killer was beautiful, but it was
Beautiful.
like it should, but but he didn't like jazz anything up. It felt very realistic,
Yeah.
um, and he
Shadows and light.
yeah, oh, but the filming from into dark into light spaces and how they dealt with the lighting, like it,
Starts out in a sniper's perch in a dark place looking out into the world.
yeah, and it's so beautifully like exposed. Everything is
Yeah.
it was perfect, and to the point where you don't even notice how good it is. It wasn't
Yeah.
trying to show you how
Yeah.
good it was. It's just like I'm good at this by now,
Okay,
and
for next time, I was gonna let you choose between either Civil War. I think interesting to talk about some of it, or Captive State. Both all I'm getting all my dystopian ones out, and then we'll get to some love stories. We're gonna start off with this one I chose this time was super dystopian, very nihilistic. Both of these are super dystopian, and very nihilistic in their own
you've been
way. But
trying to get
Captive
me to
State, not so much.
watch Captive State for a
Have you
while.
seen it?
I don't think so.
It's participant media, and participant media has a triple scorecard for making movies. It's got to make money, it's got to be entertaining, and it's got to teach something. And so every participant film is like a little fucking class. And Captive State is a class about ostensibly UFOs and aliens, but what it's really about is corruption and a captured system and how you respond to a captured system. And it's a fairy tale metaphor about aliens, but you can apply it to humans, and I have been wanting to talk to someone deeply about Captive State for years, and so I've
I'll,
drug. Oh, you like Captive State? You want to go Captive State next time?
I can watch that. So do
Okay.
I do something complimentary to that, or I just pick a movie I'm gonna make?
No. Okay. So what I want to talk about with Captive State is I want to talk about the human connection between the characters and how they're really tightly bonded together through this collective mission of society that they're on. And that is, I think, a positive metaphor for all the chaos in our world right now. That if you could see all of this craziness as part of a challenge to something higher, I think the individual interprets what that is, but I think that's the hero's journey for our current culture.
Oh,
um,
great! I'd love to watch it. Okay, I didn't think about what movie, so I'm going through right
no
now
problem, no problem.
the list. So it can just be random. They don't need to be related.
Yes, yes, yes. No, they
They,
don't need to be related. No, because we can. I have a couple things I wanted to say this time, but I'm gonna save for next time. They'll make nice little gems for next time. I think what we do is we when we get around to having enough points, next time I'm gonna take screenshots and I'm gonna have stills to show for all the scenes I wanted to
I'm
show.
going to do the same. I'm going to do the
Okay,
same.
perfect,
Be
perfect.
helpful. Um, okay. Well, you already watched Pieces of the Woman. I would
Pieces
say,
of a Woman would be a very interesting one. I mean, my God, what a beautiful movie. I can't even believe what they pulled off with that movie. It's crazy.
yeah, it was extraordinary. It was shot in Montreal.
No way. That's
Yeah.
great.
I think, yeah, that was the same camera guy as Sick of Myself. He's great. Let me see.
Nice.
So thinking of, okay, have you seen Michael Haneke's Amour?
Amour. I've seen it come across. I have not seen it.
It's a pretty, I mean, I like Michael Haneke a lot. He does a lot of,
2012.
it was good. I mean, it's emotional. It's a very
Oh,
emotional film.
yeah.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's great. It's something that I avoided for a while, and I finally sat down and watched it, and I just absolutely adored it. Uh,
Nice. Okay. Okay.
but
I'm with
I'm
you.
deciding. I'm deciding here.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Where's reviewing? Where's reviewing?
you're doing something. I mean, have you seen Last Days, the Gus Van Sant film?
I have seen it a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good one. Last Day. What do you find interesting about that one?
The camera is beautiful. Also, just showing
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it just took me in. I just really like the way the
Yeah.
story was told. It was really simple though. Michael
Yeah.
Pitt was awesome. It was just a great film. Gus Van
Beautiful.
Sant's great. He is so good at capturing like casual
Kurt
conversation.
Cobain. I mean, Nirvana hit right at the peak of my interest in movies. I mean, in music. Like it hit like at the exact time. And Nirvana was like at the perfect time when teenage angst was being expressed culturally, and I was also going through that.
I mean,
I love Nirvana. They are amazing.
if you're watching, so if it's about corruption, I mean, how
No,
about
no, no. You don't have to come up with you haven't even seen this one in a while. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about
but
that. Don't worry about
I
the
get
time.
to rewatch this.
What do
It's
you like? What do you
called
like?
It's great. It's called All Light Everywhere. I think you're gonna really like
Yeah, you you were asking me to watch that at one point. I have
it.
it. I have it on my server.
It's
That's
beautiful. It's a
excellent.
beautiful film. I'm really excited for you to. I really try to get people to watch it. I think it's one of the
Yeah.
most exquisitely made documentaries I've ever seen. It's an essay form. It's
Okay.
so good. And this guy, I think it's like maybe his second feature, but first really one that I like. He was making stuff like a lot of stuff is about Baltimore, but it's not about Baltimore. It's about everywhere. This is fantastic. Theo Anthony is like, I mean, I think that's the best documentary that came out the year it came out, at least. I mean, one of my favorites I've ever seen in the last, like, nobody's doing what he's doing. I think it's the kind of film that I would be so proud to make. Um,
Oh, I love
it's
it.
really good. I mean, he has, I like, and also to start talking about more about documentary, because I think it has, it's definitely taken me over. Um, and yeah, I think there's a lot going on in the world. So it's interesting to hear about, uh, somebody like the real world as well. So watch
Beautiful.
that
Okay,
one.
so it'll be Captive State and All Life Everywhere for next time. Sound
All
good?
light. Yeah. Yeah.
All light everywhere. All light everywhere. Beautiful. And the thing I love the most about this is that as I'm going down this rabbit hole, this is a permission for me to like explore here, there, and everywhere. And so I'll try to my between now and next time I'll try to bring it together with images, and then I can tell you a story, and that'll be what we do. Meg, this is so much fun. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
doing this with me.
I'm gonna bring more. Like I have ideas now of how I want to present.
Nice.
Kind of like, especially like it's a lot like I might do more stills and stuff about the one that I'm recommending. Um,
Okay.
maybe it's a good format for us to try to figure like to convince somebody to like something. We try to pick things. I don't know. I want to think about.
As we go along, well, let's just have like a pool of movies, and when we find natural pairs, like positive and negative poles of a magnet, we'll just pick those out.
That's
We'll
great.
find our way. We'll find our way.
Cool.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we close up? And just hang out afterwards after the stream, and we'll catch
I
up and then say
think.
goodnight.
Um, well, no, I mean, I've been watching. It's funny. I had a big break from movies for a while because, like, I wasn't
Yeah,
able. Yeah, like the last, I was binge watching shows right when Georgie was born because, like, you're just like up all night. Basically, it's really hard for me to fall asleep in 45-minute increments sometimes. She's like
totally.
eating all the time. It's newborn days are insane, but they also don't really care about light and stuff because they're always asleep. Their eyes are always closed. So
Totally.
first
Totally.
3 or 4 weeks we got to watch a lot. We got to watch a lot of stuff, and I went to the theater, the ones that lean back when I had the really big belly.
Yeah.
I gave myself acid reflux because I was like 9.5 months pregnant.
Oh no.
Because you're really pregnant like for 10 months, right?
Okay.
But 40 weeks.
Mm.
So, like, anyway, you're super pregnant, and popcorn is not good for super pregnant. You can't sleep all night. I got to see The Killer and Killers of the Flower Moon, but I ended up missing. Like, I still haven't seen Poor Things.
I
And
haven't seen it either.
I get really upset when movies are like, um, they get a lot of hype and you missed it before the hype came in. Because I like to watch things without other reviews and anything like really clean.
Yes.
I don't even watch
That's the
trailers.
best way.
Um, I don't like full trailers because I read the premises of like a new filmmaker's making something. I'm like, cool, that sounds awesome. I don't need to see
Yeah.
anything more than hear that 2 lines of what this is about.
I'm with you, sister. That's exactly right. The moment I'm like, I'm interested, it's done. No more trailer. I want it to be as fresh as possible when I hit it.
So I missed like the whale. There was like all
Oh, sure.
thing everywhere all at once. I still haven't seen that because it's like
Okay.
people were too obsessed, and I just felt like it was a cult of that movie, and it makes
Yeah.
me wonder if it's even very good. So I get kind of
Yeah.
turned off by like that. Same with the whale. I finally watched the whale. I
Oh,
hated it. I
hard to like that fucking movie.
I just felt like he wasn't really on the side of like I didn't really believe it
That's
felt
the
very
point.
much like a play because it was adapted from a play, and in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way
yeah.
quite bored. I like it, for a movie I felt like I was stuck in this place, and if that's how it made me want to make me feel, but I also felt like it was kind of making fun almost of the point of view of somebody that's that fat. It was like at times like
Oh, yeah, for sure.
cruel and comedic.
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't
no, no, no. The shame and the yeah is next level.
but his shame, sure. But sometimes I felt like with the way he was eating and doing stuff, like it just felt cartoonish. Like it wasn't really as empathy. Didn't have as much empathy for somebody in that position that I wanted it to have. and
Yeah.
therefore I
No, and
didn't
that made
really.
it very cringy and hard to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't that's
Yeah.
not the problem. It's not about
Oh.
not showing that he couldn't get it off the toilet and things like that. It was
Mm.
like, they were just I don't know. It just didn't feel
Yeah.
real.
That's Darren Aronofsky, right? Was that Darren Aronofsky or no? That
Yeah,
was
that was
who-
Aronofsky.
that was Aronofsky. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, it's very interesting when you think about art as a spiritual expression because what else, if you make something that like transmits like that, if you make something that hits a chord, you were clearly standing next to that chord when you struck it, right? And there's, I don't know, Mother was really rough, although I loved the staging of it. I
Yeah.
loved the way that the scenes flowed. It was like next level merging of like theater and cinema. I thought that was magic. But like, yeah, that was hard. The devs, I heard Aronofsky after he made Devs for Hulu, which is about, spoiler alert, an AI
You said
computer.
that was Aronofsky, or that was
No,
Alex? That was
great. You're Garland. Sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. Alex Garland. Alex Garland.
Alex
Let me
Garland, I think, hasn't made anything good since he made the
Beach.
zombie movie. That
Which
was
one?
good. Well, he wrote the novel to 28 Days Later, and that was
Yeah.
like awesome. I really like. I don't think he
Did you like
directed.
Annihilation? Did you like Annihilation?
No, we talked about it. For me, it just turned into
Oh.
like a crocodile animal killer, like not really like kind of like forcing the feminist thing. Like I always find
Yeah.
Alex Garland actually have great premises that he can't deliver on. I really don't. I know that's like I don't think I'm not saying I could do it better. I am just saying I feel
Yeah.
like he's missing like Civil War was missing a heart. Like you had Jesse Plemons come in that movie, and his scene was awesome. He was like,
Yes.
I was like, wow, here's a movie, but there was only
Yeah.
one scene, and like, and I feel like that happens a lot. Like where I don't know, I'm not as big of a fan. Even Ex Machina was like beautifully made and stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm not as big a fan. I wanted to like Devs, but I felt like it was just a beautiful set and like
They
cool
they
pro.
whiffed it. They really let you in on the sort of DEI culture of San Francisco, but from the inside. Like with no irony whatsoever. The way um they tripped over that over and over again in that one, which was just hard to watch as a Midwesterner. It doesn't penetrate as much in the Midwest as it does like on the like in San Francisco. But that's a big part of tech, and so they kind of caught it in a certain way. But the thing about, okay, so artists, they broadcast what they have. I heard Alex Garland in an interview after Devs like say that he didn't actually think there was any free will. Like in that movie, it explores the concept of if AI can perfectly trace the superposition of if the spoiler alert, if you can see the superposition of one incredibly stable atom that's not moving anywhere, it's like all a hologram, so you can see the relative position of anything from there. So you don't have to map everything to get omniscience. You just have to map one thing to get omniscience. And they have these 6 objects, and they map them, and they create like a parallel universe. Spoiler alert again, that they can copy paste people to at the end of their life into. There, you don't get to that until like the last like 3 minutes of the series, and there's a lot to get through with that series. It's very beautiful. They use the mandala. This whole concept of AI. The science fiction scenes when they tune the AI to like Jesus's crucifixion or Marilyn Monroe and hang out with JFK or whatever they're doing. They're just this adventure they're on in consciousness. That part's beautiful. But the whole thing, it's like the whole story is about the weight of inertia and how hard free will is. But the spoiler alert again, the end of the story, the girl, the woman, the main character, she becomes like the Christ character who has the free will, who can actually change the story for everybody, and she like breaks the world. Like this AI model can't see past her choice point in the whole thing. And
Right.
so it's like the story literally this director is like, I don't actually believe in free will anymore. It's like, wait, Jesus, like the amount of creativity that you have put into this world. Like if someone challenges me to a free will contest, like do something that I can't predict, I'm like, I can come up with that. you know?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm trying to like. It's been a while since I've seen it. I guess I had a problem with. I think like again a lot of the themes and ideas. I mean, even if it's
Sure.
Annihilation, they have that crazy trippy scene. But like, I feel.
Annihilation's like a referendum on ayahuasca, I think. I think they're saying something about ayahuasca about that.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think that he's like. Yeah. I mean, I think there's. That's interesting. I mean, I think
Yeah,
there's
an
something
invading
almost like,
force.
I think
Yeah,
they all have really good ideas behind it, but his story, his
yeah,
plot as the vehicle to explore those feels
yeah,
really separated and feels
yeah,
really basic. Like they don't reinforce each other. So when he's
yeah, yeah,
revealing information or having some of these conversations, like when they
yeah,
pulled that up, if I remember correctly in Devs, I think what I had a problem with that show is they were
yeah.
pulling that up, but they could pull up anything to help themselves in that situation, and they were pulling up or something like that. There were things where it just didn't like a
There
lot of
were a lot of gaps. There were a lot of logical
stuff like
gaps in the
that.
technology. There were.
So
Yeah.
that so it's hard for me like when
And
you
then
have
they just drive. They literally drive the truck off the cliff in the last 10 minutes of the series, and just watch it break into a million pieces. And they're like, "There you go, it's all made of pieces." And it's like, "Wait a minute, what?"
but we don't know what to do. And I think there's a lot of things that go on and on and on, series particularly,
Yeah,
where they
yeah,
can like they fade because it's really hard to end things. It's really hard to like break things apart if you
yeah.
built the whole time. And I think like Lost
Well,
really suffered with the end with that. They're like, I mean, it totally was purgatory and Lost, right? Like,
yeah. No, Lost is like. I mean, listen,
well, I
Lost is a.
admit it because they didn't. I don't think they knew along the way, and the show was
Yeah.
just so great. But like, they were like,
They.
man, they felt pressure by the audience to come
Yeah.
up with. Because think about it, but back this is back when like audiences actually
I know.
affected the writing season to season, and I
They
think they
through the
wanted,
comments that the internet made it two-way. That's exactly right.
yeah, I think they wanted to prove that we didn't everybody didn't guess the end, but they did. Whereas Devs, I think was like the endings are hard. I'm just gonna.
Endings are hard. Well, dude. Like, okay, so the people who
Yeah,
watched Lost, the couple out of Germany who made Dark. Did you ever watch the entire Dark trilogy, like all three
I
seasons?
watched the first season. It was excellent. Second, it lost me on the last episode of the first season. I got really annoyed. I get like annoyed like
Yeah.
when the wormhole comes out and um oh my god, the Ridley
Yep.
Scott one.
Okay.
Raised
In
by
David Lin.
Wolves.
In
Raised by
okay,
Wolves.
go ahead. Go ahead.
You watch Raised by Wolves season one?
I tried to. I couldn't get through that one.
Really? Okay, so I love the first season because I love worlds starting over. I love people going into like an
I'd
unknown,
watch it if you like
building
it.
a community. I like first season. Second season, I couldn't keep going because he has a worm
Yeah.
go through the middle of it becomes an alien verse, and that's not what
Yeah.
I it was building itself to be. But I like that Devs was only one season. I think that made it go.
They ended it. That's right. They told the
I
story in the okay. One little thing there, and with Alex Garland, the
have
way.
to go to the bathroom so bad.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, turn off your video and audio, and I'll keep our audience entertained here, everybody. Uh, we will we could play a little music. We could host around. Okay, let me tell you this. I would like everyone to okay, watch the movies that we're going to watch, come up with comments. If you like you can send in on our comments on any of our stuff, especially our YouTube. We probably will see them there the most. Questions that you have about the movies or anything you want to add about the movies. If you've got a particular movie that you'd love us to review or kind of watch, we will certainly take it under consideration. We kind of pump it through we pump it through the if we're super interested filter. Life's too short to watch bad movies, man. So you gotta take the good with the bad. Um, but we're gonna have an insanely fun time. Let me turn on my fun background here. We're gonna have an insanely fun time on this journey, and we're gonna watch a lot of movies, and we're gonna talk about a ton of movie minutia, and we're going to learn about that along the way. I am personally hoping that at some point we might find ourselves Megan, I hope that at some point we find ourselves in some Stanley Kubrick deep dives and some stuff. I drug Cheryl along a couple years ago on some Stanley Kubrick awesomeness, and
Not as
I'm interested in dragging more people along. It's good stuff. You
sure.
ever
I
you ever Go ahead.
what? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, have you ever heard all the stuff about the rear projection technology? The It's the same stuff they use on some of the moon landing footage. Doesn't mean we didn't go to the moon, but it probably means that Stanley Kubrick had a hand in filming some of the scenes that were presented as being on the moon when they were really on a
Love
soundstage. Doesn't
to,
mean we didn't want to go to the moon, but
love to
yeah,
get into it. I mean, he was like a perfectionist for sure, so I wouldn't put it past him to be able to do that.
engineer.
I
Ab-
have to go to sleep.
Okay,
I,
excellent. One final thought, Evie, but okay, while we're on these things. Okay, Alex Garland. trips over the gender, gay, whatever the funky dynamics are in his story writing about San Francisco. He trips over it in Devs, and it's so painful to watch it like kind of unspool in the way that does not happen in The Bear. You are deep into this thing, and the sexual orientation, even the race of these people is far, far, far secondary to the development that they're going through as characters and how much you care about them as a part of this family. And I thought that The Bear captured a really good sense of how things actually work in the city. When I lived in Chicago, that is how people got along. You looked beyond the differences and you fucking got back to work because everybody was a little bit different.
You also kind of all yelled at each other and they insult each other like hilariously.
That's right.
Get what did he say when they're like cuz they're like it's this really funny scene, so it's very theatrical, right? In the opening, one of the first episodes of season 3 when he's going but they're all the two of the Tweedledee and Tweedledum character, but they're very funny and they're changing the light bulb and everybody's like starting to yell at each other and it's like this and he's like get dead or get dead, like they have it, the dialogue in this show is so good, it's so realistic. I think that's what I really liked about The Bear is that it also like it took a personality of a place and applied it to the people. I mean, it's just done and like it's superb. I've never seen a show that gives me like it makes me anxious watching it. So I think that I wonder it's awesome how many people like it because I would think that I had to get people to watch it. I'm like they walked in like when we
it helps that it won the Emmy.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, I was an early adopter because I liked like the really intense, the intensity of it and being in the weeds with anybody who's really good at what they do. I'm also like really into food. So Matt and I like to eat anything that a chef would bring out. We like to do that when we're in a different country.
Oh, that's great.
Like, yeah, my last pregnancy, I ate like, brain and all sorts of stuff. Like I'll eat anything, pigeon. I remember the first time that was hard for me to get over, but it's a thing over there. So.
Yeah, man. Pigeons were cultivated and hang out next to humans because they were a food source. That's why they love people so much and being around people. They were bred that way.
Birds, the rats of birds. Well, let's figure out what our next area is. It next week? Is it?
It's whenever we get around to watching stuff. Some of us are raising families. That'd be you.
I have time to watch a movie now at night. She's sleep trained.
Brilliant. Well, I say just these Wednesdays work perfectly for me. I say just as soon as we get it watched, we just say, okay, we're ready. And then when we're ready, we then just do it the next Wednesday. And I'm having a great time doing these things.
Okay. And we'll chat in between. This might is more stressful.
We're gonna go out on a little bit of music here. Hold on, we're gonna tail off our broadcast here for about a few minutes, and then we'll catch up. Have a great time, everybody. Join us next time for when we go deeper into movies. God bless everyone.
Bye.